So, welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Coach Edge Show. We are in our normal spot here, talking with an incredible young man. The man to my right is thoughtful. He's courageous. He's disciplined. He's accountable. Faithful. Those are all words that describe this person to my right. And he has got an incredible story that I can't wait to share to you, for you. It is for you. I promise you that today. And it really revolves around mental health and just some tools that he has created himself to not only help himself maintain a strong mental health posture, I'll say, but also that can help so many people. And that's the reason that I'm excited to share. So, without further ado, the person to my right, a very good friend, Dustin Haraway. Dustin, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Yes, sir. I'm fired up to be here. Just get to share my journey, and really just I want to help some people through this, and so specifically in a topic that is very prevalent today, and I've struggled in, and so that's kind of what I'm really most looking forward to. You've been a great friend for a long time in my life, so. I'm just excited to be here.
I've been thinking about this conversation for a long time, actually. We're just now finally being able to record it. It's early May of 2024, but this has been a conversation that's been on my mind for years, honestly, and here we are. So I'm excited. So just to orient everyone a little bit, who is Dustin Haraway? What, a little bit of your background, your story, and then we'll get into some specifics about your story. So just give us a little background about Dustin.
Sure. Yeah, so I am from Madison, Alabama. That's where I grew up and was born and raised. I've got just a wonderful family. Honestly, the biggest blessing in my whole life. Yeah, I raised in Madison. We lived in the same house my whole life. Went to Bob Jones High School here in Madison. Sports was a huge part of my life growing up. Played football, baseball, and basketball. Football was really my true passion. And went on to play college football at a school called Georgetown College. Got a scholarship there. Really good program. It's actually the NAI level. And so competitively, it's kind of on par with Division II football. Really great experience there. I met 5 of my best friends that we still talk pretty much every week. And just a lot of growth and things that happened there. I was at Georgetown and was fortunate to start 3 years and really shaped a lot of my journey. It was there that I found out what I wanted to do with my life. And being in the wealth management and financial planning field. So just very thankful for that experience. Very thankful that I chose to go off somewhere 5 hours away and play college sports and really challenge myself. Not just kind of follow what was comfortable, but I mean, I got to truly live out a dream. And playing college football. My brother Dylan came there as well, and so that was just really the experience of a lifetime. I'm also a Christian. I'm a believer, and that shapes a lot of who I am. And I'm excited to just talk more about my faith and who Jesus is to me. So so now I'm about 7 years out of school.
Has it been 7 years?
Yeah, it's going to be 7 years, I guess, in December. But I'm 29 years old, and I'm getting to do what I love to do, and be a financial planner, and really help people steward their money well, grow it, protect it, and spend it wisely.
There you go.
So, it's just it's truly a blessing. I feel like the Lord has called me into this field, and so I'm just really happy with where I'm at now.
Yeah, man, that is awesome. That is so good. So good. So let's talk about 3 years. We won't even go into all the injuries and resilience through that. I mean, that was an incredible part of your college experience too. But what I want to focus on is you graduated from Georgetown, got a job in Louisville, right? Graduated, packed up, you didn't go with anybody. You moved there for a job, and we're starting to work that job in a new city, and then kind of just pick up the story right there, and then kind of how did your life progress from there?
So I graduated from college in December 2017. already had my first job lined up in Louisville, and I was really excited about it. It was a sales role in the wealth management field with a company called Nationwide Financial. And, the job was in Louisville, Kentucky. For whatever reason, I didn't have a strong desire to go back home at that point. And I really kind of was looking for the next new adventure in a new city. And so yeah, I'm in my job and also dating someone at the time, but she was 2 hours away. And, but it was a very new city. I only had a few connections there. And so fast forward about 7 months down the road to July of 18. And I really started to notice some changes in my own mental health. And I just felt feelings I never felt before. And I would describe those as just depressed, down, just anxious. I noticed interruptions in my sleep, appetite. I lost a lot of weight. Left college at 195 pounds, and I was probably down to 170.
College linebacker.
College linebacker, yeah. And so, I was noticing all these changes in my mental health, and actually got out of the relationship I was in April of that year. And then there came a point in early August of 2018 where the symptoms I was feeling got even more serious. And, I couldn't even it got to a point where I was having trouble functioning. The thoughts I was thinking were really kind of just spiraling, and I just didn't feel well. I was having a hard time communicating with people. And so there was a point in August of 18 where I was 23, 24 years old at the time. All I knew is to call my parents and say, look, I'm not feeling well. And I'm having a hard time even functioning. And I'll never forget, it was a night early August of that year. My dad drove up. Louisville's 3.5, 4 hours away, and came to be with me. And then we went home that next day. And of course, I went to seek medical help and saw a doctor. And it's amazing. I recently went to see my primary care doctor, and he's like, and I'm giving him updates and my history. He says that 30 to 40% of the patients he sees on a daily basis are psychiatric issues.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that was astounding.
That is.
And so immediately my doctor at that time kind of knew what was happening, so prescribed me medication. But it didn't really help very much. And so actually made things worse. I started to have suicidal thoughts and ideations. And just you never wake up and envision yourself having suicidal thoughts. Right? I mean, that's the place I found myself in. And so I actually, in this time, I wasn't working. I actually I went on disability. And so disability actually covers mental and physical disabilities. So I was just stopped working. My company was very good through this time, really supportive is what I'm looking for. And so they take the time you need to get well. And so I lived at home with my parents for a while and just focused on getting well. And I was majorly depressed. I mean, it was getting worse and worse. And you cycled through different doctors, different psychiatrists, different therapists, and nothing really was working. I mean, I was my family, me. I was at a point of desperation. I was crying out to God, and why is this happening? I'm only 8 or 9 months out of school and coming off the best time of my life. I just didn't know why I was in this place, but I was. And so I was in a kind of a deep just pit, and I was trying to climb my way out of it. And thankfully, fast forward to December, January of 1819, and one of my best friends from college moved in with us, and he was going to get a new job at the FBI. He actually comes and lives with us, and it was just such a blessing. It was almost like the Lord had sent an angel to kind of rescue me in a way from an emotional, from a spiritual and standpoint to help kind of lift me out of this. And so he came and lived with us for about 4 months and just spoke into me, prayed over me, took me to the gym, worked out with me. In addition to that, I finally found a medication. I'll talk about medication later, but I found a medication that actually really helped me and sort of start to boost some of these chemicals in your brain that control mood and energy and sleep and all those things. And I think the combination of those two things, having Cody come and live with me and getting back into exercising and then finding a medication that helped really started to kind of just give me a little bit of light.
Yep.
That's really all I needed to run with, and I started to really climb out of the hole I was in from there. And then Taylor here actually made an introduction to a friend of his at that time, who
he's still a friend.
Yeah, still.
You haven't ruined that friendship.
Yeah, I didn't know him at the time, but that introduction was really the launching point for what I'm doing now, and being a financial planner, and getting to do what I love to do. Actually, that was literally 6 years ago now. So that was roughly in February of 2018 or May of 24. So that was a huge part of the journey too. And so, fast forward 6 years later from that point, I'm doing really well. I actually had another hiccup or hurdle along the way with depression again here recently. And
So one thing, just recap just for a second. What were some of those warning signs? Let's go back to you in the cubicle at Nationwide. You're feeling this way. You had never felt this way. Kind of name what those 3-4 types of different symptoms that was starting to reveal itself, just because whoever's listening, watching, I really want them to hone in on, oh, that's me.
Number one, mood.
Okay. Yeah.
You just know, you got a sense of if I'm feeling happy, at peace, calm. And I'm not even talking about, and the contrary being sad, and I'm not talking about sad.
Right.
There's a difference between sad and depressed.
Okay, that's good.
Sad is a feeling that comes and typically goes within a day to a week. Depression, that feeling sticks with you.
Okay.
Longer than a week.
Yeah.
If that feeling of being sad and really sad goes on for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, there's something going on.
Okay.
That'd be number one. Number two for me was just the inability to communicate and think clearly.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
And so, like I said earlier, I was having trouble just communicating with people in my everyday life, communicating at work. My job was a sales job, so I actually had to call financial advisors, which I am now, and then and try to sell our product. And just the inability to really talk to people and people around me and think clearly and focus and put coherent thoughts together.
Yeah.
That was a huge warning sign. And then the sleep I mentioned as well.
Sleep, that's right.
I had never had an issue sleeping up until that point in my life.
Okay.
I was go to bed at 10 or 11 and sleep 7 to 8 straight hours. And, so that was a clear warning sign to me for me to not be able to sleep throughout the night. Wake up and I'm just having these just spiraling thoughts and huge sleep interruptions. So that was a huge warning sign for me. And appetite too.
Okay, appetite.
Okay. I was not eating as much. Things were changing there. And those were the big four I point to.
Okay. So if there's somebody out there that is starting to see that they don't know what's going on, but I don't feel good. And all of a sudden they're starting to identify these things. Like, that's an indication you need to reach out and get help. Quit trying to fight it alone.
Yes.
Right? You're not tough enough. As big as a 195-pound linebacker coming out of college, you're not tough enough. Yeah. You can't do this on your own. That's the main point that I wanted to get to it. That I don't care how tough you are and the things you've been through and your character being as high and your faith being as high. When you start to realize some of this cocktail kind of coming together, that's probably an indication that you need to go talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. Okay, so you were in that, and it was a rough patch. It was definitely a rough patch when you moved back to Madison and you were trying to find these solutions, and with Cody being a huge inspiration to get out of that, and we could talk about this for hours. The details of the depth of that depression, and it really helped me understand it a lot too.
Because you and I were meeting quite often during that time.
Yeah. And I'd heard about depression before. I'd maybe heard other stories, but I'd never come face to face with it.
Right, and I had the same perspective as you before I went through depression. Like, I had never thought about it. Never even thought about mental health. Never understood it. I didn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
All those things. And now my heart is just completely changed towards people that are going through these conditions and understanding more like this truly is a biological type thing,
Yeah.
physiologically going on, chemicals in your brain. I just know so much more about it, and so I'm more empathetic to people that are struggling. But like you said, I never thought about it, didn't understand mental health or depression or anxiety before.
Now, so here's the cool part about it. Coming out of it, you actually develop what you call 6 pillars. So 6 foundational areas that you applied to your life that you see was the way out, that really help you get out of that pit of depression that we hear so much about. So I just would love for you to share those 6 pillars and share what they are, and then how, maybe a little practical, how you implemented that. So yeah, please share about that.
I'll share the 6 pillars, and then feel free to dive more.
Okay, I'll do that. I'm a diver.
Yep. So the 6 pillars. I'll list them all first, and then kind of share the importance of each one.
Okay.
So number 1 is knowing God and having a real relationship with His Son, Jesus Christ. Number 2 is having real social connections in your life. Relationships.
Yes.
Those are all good ways to say that in your life. That's number 2. Number 3 is finding why God put you on this earth, or in other words, your purpose.
Yeah.
Number 4 is exercise. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
Number 5 is diet and sleep.
Yeah.
Those matter a lot. And then number 6, this is not a one that goes on forever, but medication. I think can truly play a pivotal role in helping you overcome and get better from mental health conditions. Those are the 6.
Yeah, that's great.
Honestly, I feel like God just revealed these to me. I mean, and people perhaps spoke these into my life at that time, and these are not earth-shattering or newfound wisdoms. I mean, many researchers in this area, and even there's been books written on depression from a faith perspective. Our pastor has a great one called Out of the Cave.
Yeah.
And these are not new ideas. I mean, I kind of just pulled them all together, and these are what work for me now.
Yeah.
And so I would love to share a little bit about each one, practical, how they've practically helped me in my life. So, having a real relationship with Jesus, there's nothing more fulfilling than that. And I'm talking about like you're following Him on a daily basis. You're spending time with Him each morning. You're reading His Word. You're letting His Word transform your mind.
Yeah.
You truly have accepted and understand the cross and the grace that's found and the freedom and forgiveness of your sins. And, that's where the real fulfilling part of being in a relationship with Him is actually having a relationship with Him on a daily basis. And so spending time in prayer. One of the things I've been kind of thinking about a lot lately is my girlfriend and I actually memorized this verse this week together. Been memorizing one verse a week, but Genesis 1, 26 or 27, that says, God created you in His image.
Yes.
You were created in the image of God. And so sin is what separates us from Him.
Yeah.
And so the only way to be in right relationship with Him is to accept that sacrifice that Jesus sacrificed on the cross when He died, and for His blood to cover you and your sins. And so that's when we return to that freedom and that right relationship with God. And so we all have a yearning for that. We all want to be holy and set apart, but there's only one way. And so sin brings that separation. And so and I'll talk about later my experience with Season Builder. Faith was one of the things I wanted to build on. And so I sit here today saying I've grown a ton in that area in my faith.
Can I ask a question about the first one? Because I think sometimes maybe a Christian that goes through depression, thinks there's something wrong with them.
Right.
Like, what am I not honoring God? Or do I not love Jesus? Because you were a Christian. I mean, you led FCA at Georgetown. You were very involved. So maybe what's the difference? What were some of your thoughts? How did you overcome maybe some of the negative thoughts you had? So hey, I'm supposed to be a Christian. Why is this happening?
Right. I'm so glad you brought that up. Number one, just remember it's cliche, but it's okay to not be okay. And I mentioned that book our pastor wrote called Out of the Cave. And in that book, he points to characters in the Bible that have actually gone through depression. And I mean, they write about it in their books. And so a couple examples of those are Elijah. Elijah actually prayed that he wanted to die, and he was suicidal. And so he prayed that he was depressed. He prayed he wanted to die. David, and if you just read the Psalms, you're just like, man, this guy is like, I think
He's having severe mental health challenges.
Those are two of the biggest examples I point to in the Bible. So I mean, this is mental health and depression. This is biblical as well. Even our pastor talks about he went through a time when he was 19 where he was severely depressed, and he became a Christian at 15. And so there's no separation of mental health and loving Jesus and being a Christian. Like, Christians struggle with these things too. There's actually been pastors that have died by suicide. One of the most well-known is Rick Warren's son. And so I think he's in heaven today. I think he struggled with a real disease. And I don't think that God saw him differently for what he did or what happened. So it's okay to not be okay as a Christian.
Yes.
You need to, that's a truth. Like, you don't need to, that's not a my opinion. No. That's not our pastor's opinion. Like, that is the truth you can stand on. And so that helped me a lot, honestly. Yeah. And also, don't worry about your faith. Don't worry, because some of the thoughts I was thinking more recently, even at that time in 2018 when I was going through depression, is my faith is weak, and God sees me differently, and I'm defined by this. And, I just had my confidence in my faith was so low at that time. But look, don't worry about any of that.
There you go.
You need to focus on getting yourself. You're not thinking rationally when you're going through these things. You need to focus on getting yourself well physically. That's the biggest thing I would say. Yeah, and we'll talk about those in a second. Yeah, just focus on your physical health first, and don't worry about the struggles of what you're thinking about with your faith.
Oh, that's so good.
Your feelings will mislead you. Your salvation doesn't change just because you're feeling depressed or thinking even just maybe sinful thoughts about your faith. Like, Jesus paid for those. So give yourself grace. Yeah.
There you go. Give yourself grace. I think that's so important, because it wasn't that you came to Christ and that's what saved you from your depression. Right. And God can do that, right? Jesus could do that. That's a real thing. Right. But I just want to let you know your story was you were walking with the Lord. You had, you loved him. You had surrendered your life to him. You were saved, but it came, the darkness came. Yeah. Right. Okay, good. So I'm glad that was first. So talk about number 2, relationships.
Yeah, number 2. So relationships, there's different avenues here. Okay. A couple you need, in terms of relationships, social connection, and community. And so this is one of the ones I've focused on in Season Builder. It's not, I would call it a strength of mine or a natural thing for me, because I'm, if introversion and extroversion is the spectrum, I probably lean more towards the introverted side of the scale. And so I get energy from being alone. It's a good thing, but it can also hurt you as well. Backfire too. And I think that's one of the contributors to my depression at that time. Mm-hmm. So going back to Genesis and how God created us, he created Adam first, and then he found that it's not good for man to be alone. So I created a helper, Eve. And so that right there says that God created you to be in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And that's how he created you and wired you. So, that's just critically important. So I believe you need, first and foremost, not everybody is blessed with a great family connection. Yeah, I fully acknowledge that. So that's not going to be present in everybody's life. But if it is, you need to lean into those.
There you go.
You need to connect with those relationships and water them. And because, my family particularly has just been everything to me. And played an incredible part of my healing journey. But even now, just the time we spend together is incredibly valuable. And I just feel so loved by them. So family's important. And then your foxhole friends, those guys or gals that you can share anything with, you can open up to, and literally tell your deepest, darkest feelings and secrets to. I've got 2 or 3 of those, and those are so critically important. And I feel like a lot of people don't have those, particularly males.
Yeah, I agree with it.
And so those relationships are so, so important. And then, then you've got that kind of next tier of friends that, you may not feel comfortable sharing everything with, but those are, they're still really close, even consider best friends.
Yeah.
You've got to have kind of that sphere of friends as well, that you can have fun with, that you can, connect with, and they just make life fun.
Just people to be around.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's eight people in my life that I would consider, really close best friends. Mm-hmm. And so, and those relationships are incredibly valuable in my life, and just the encouragement and brotherhood that I get from those. And so, and then further expanding out, you need other groups of people throughout your week that you're spending intentional time with. And I'll kind of share in my own life some practical examples. And so, at work, in the workplace, I've got relationships. My partner, who I work for and work with, Gene Poshpistol, he's a close friend and somebody that just incredibly encourages me, mentors me. So he's one in the workplace, and you'll have other relationships in the workplace as well that you can pour into. You spend a lot of your time there.
Yeah.
Secondly, throughout the week for me is my Bible study, group of guys I meet with every Thursday. And so they help me grow in my own faith, and we can talk about struggles and sins that we're dealing with and hold each other accountable. And so that's a huge one for me. My church community as well. That's a big one. I attend Church of the Highlands, but just the relationships I've developed with pastors there, and just the church body and community through serving is huge. And then, I'm dating someone right now, so I have a girlfriend, and she's incredibly supportive and just a friend to me.
Yeah.
Somebody I can talk with about anything.
Yeah.
And so that could be your wife or your spouse or significant other. So, but the biggest thing is, like, I have people in my life now, community that I can share with and open up to and talk to. And there's real benefits to your mental health.
Yeah.
On all of these things. So, depression makes you want to isolate.
Yeah, that's right. It makes you want to isolate.
Yeah, and so you start to feel different. You look at yourself as inferior, less than, and you're not the same as other people. And so the natural tendency is to get alone and really kind of lock yourself in your room and not. You're not going to go out and do things socially and even get plugged in your church home or talk to people at work, water cooler talk, and you're drawn to isolation. And so that's honestly one of the worst things you can do when you're depressed. I mean, in this most recent episode, I was literally, because I recognized what was going on, forcing myself into social situations. And I'm thankful I did, because it helped me kind of recover quicker. And so that's huge.
What I love about that is, because you saw what happened the first time,
right?
You knew the way out of it. So when you started feeling that again, you had to force yourself to follow your own advice.
That's right.
You had to take your own advice, and it wasn't easy, but you knew that was it. And sure enough, it proved itself again, right? By building community, getting plugged back in, but you had to force it. Yep. But man, that was awesome. Yeah, I really want to make that point around it, because people can feel, even if they're not to that darkness yet, they go, well, I don't know. And they may feel embarrassed, or I don't know what to say. Like, even if it's like reaching out to someone like me or reaching out to you, they're going to hear this podcast, and I know you'd be more than willing to have a conversation with anybody that listens to this, but they're going to go, well, I don't know. He'll think I'm, all those different crazy things that go through your mind, right? So I think what you would say is, hey, get over that. Yeah. Reach out.
Yeah, I would love to speak to that. It's one of the things I struggle with, is especially just kind of my profile, being a football player and a male in particular, and just feeling like you're going to be judged if you open up and share, what's going on in my mind, what am I feeling, and hard to get over that too.
Yeah.
And it also, it's hard to even try to explain what you're thinking or feeling, because your thoughts are so irrational when you're depressed and going through anxiety, that you tell the things to people that you're thinking, and they don't understand it.
Right.
They're like, why are you thinking that?
Yeah.
You
right.
know?
Well, just don't think that.
Yeah, just don't think that. But it's not that easy.
Not that easy. No.
Yeah, and so trust me, there are people in your circle of life who there will be people that judge you. I'll say that right up front.
Let's just be honest.
Don't go talk to those people.
There you go.
Yeah. But there are people in your circle of life that want to sit down and listen to you, and so you know who those are. Identify those people, the people that love you unconditionally. If you're a Christian and a person of faith, your pastors, Taylor. If you're listening to this podcast, you know who he is. Myself, people that have gone through these conditions before. All of these people will sit down and listen to you free of judgment. I promise
That's
you
right.
that. And so you don't have to be fearful of that. But trust me, it's a real fear that I had, and it's hard to overcome. But you don't have to fear that. Like, there's people that want to sit down and listen to you and help you. I'll add therapists and psychiatrists to that list too.
It takes 5 seconds of insane courage.
Yeah.
Hit the green button. Hit the send button. Text it out and hit the send. Have 5 second hits and text me. Text Jared. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. So faith, number 1. Community, social interactions, number 2. Those are 2 of my favorites. All right. Number 3. What's number 3?
Yep. So identifying the reason God created you,
purpose
and purpose.
Yeah.
Finding your purpose.
Yeah.
Right on timely, right on point. Our pastor was just talking about this, Sunday, in our message yesterday. And so again, going back to how God created you and designed you, the Bible says he prepared good works in advance before he even knit you in your mother's womb. And so that right there, the Bible says you were created for a purpose, and specifically God gave you gifts.
That's right.
That he wants you to use in building his kingdom. And so I think that a lot of people, I'll say first, I think that a lot of people try to connect their purpose to their job. Mm-hmm. And so that's not, for most people, I would say that's not it. It's not what you do. I do think, thankfully, I'm in a career where I think my job is, my vocation is part of my purpose, but it's not my sole purpose.
Right.
The Bible says our sole purpose is to go and make disciples, to be on mission, to share Jesus with the world. And so that's our number 1 purpose. Mm-hmm. But we're all given different gifts in carrying out that mission.
That's right.
Right. And so the Bible talks about spiritual gifts. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, Taylor's gifts might be to lead worship and to use his beautiful singing voice to help people have an experience with God.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. My gift might be to teach people financial principles that are going to help them have freedom in this area of their life. Yeah. And to lead a group, to use the spiritual gift of leadership and pastoring and teaching. But you were designed for a purpose. I can promise you that. And so, but don't feel ashamed or guilty if you feel like you haven't found that.
That's right. Absolutely.
So there's been,
how many people are walking around feeling like they don't know what that is?
Right. Absolutely. There's been secular studies done that say even within the Christians, group of Christians, I think it's upwards of over 80% of even Christians say they don't truly know their purpose.
Totally believe that.
Right. Yeah. And you, first of all, I think you got to understand how God created you, what your design is, and what your gifts are. And then once you understand that, then you can identify, hey, where is God leading me to use my gifts? Mm-hmm. And so that could be within the body of Christ in the church walls. It could be through your vocation. It could be through nonprofit work, outside of your job. Yeah. But I mean, there's so many areas that you might not think about. It could be as a mother raising your kids to love Jesus. Until you truly dive into how you were created, you're not going to figure it out.
Right. So right. You gotta go on a journey.
Yes, but the benefit of that, once you figured out why God created you, what your purpose is, there's this thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Mm-hmm. And this is a secular thing. This is not biblical, but it's amazing how secular research tends to line up with the Bible. But the highest need that a person has that Maslow found was self-actualization. And it's really about reaching one's full potential and living life with meaning. Yeah. And so that's that's really when we feel most fulfilled is when we're using our gifts, how God created us, to make a difference in someone else's life.
Yep.
And to actually pursue outward things instead of inward pleasures, and living for ourselves.
Right.
And so that's secular research, but the Bible also says that too. You're going to be most fulfilled when you're living out God's calling and for your life, and living with an outward focus. And so there's chemical things that happen in your brain, but there's also spiritual things that happen in your body that lead to a fulfilling and a peaceful, just a rewarding life, a blessed life. When you're pursuing purpose.
That's right. So that's number 3. Third pillar is go on a journey to discover your purpose. There's a lot of resources out there. I help people do that. There's a lot of churches. There's resources out there. Just go look. They're there.
Yes.
Okay. Good. All right. So 1, 2, 3. All right. Number 4 is.
Yeah. So number 4 is exercise.
Exercise.
And man, the prior 3 they're all really important.
Yeah. I was gonna say they're all important.
Yeah. But this one gets more to our physical bodies.
Yeah.
So exercise, and I'll go back to my own story. Mm-hmm. This was one of the things that I got away from that was lacking, and what I believe was one of the contributing factors to the deterioration of my mental health.
Right.
And so, going back to my childhood, my background, I was incredibly active as a kid. Mm-hmm. Practiced sports all the time. Once I got up into high school, and it was working out, lifting weights, running sprints, staying conditioned for football, and that obviously carried into college. And college football or any college sport, there's just intense physical training. It's just a natural part of your life at that stage. And so I had all that going for me. And then once I transitioned from college into adulthood or the real world, professional life, that all just kind of disintegrated and dissipated and really went away because I didn't really have a motivation to exercise anymore. And so I believe in that time, my brain chemistry actually really started to change. And that's one of the factors that led to me going through depression and major depression and feeling depressed. And so I truly, truly believe that exercise matters a lot. And not just for mental health, physical health. I mean, there's so many studies that have been done, the way it reshapes your brain. And so for me, exercise has not only helped me recover, but it's also been preventative, I believe, in staying feeling well.
Yes.
And so I point that out. It's not just, on this recent episode I've gone through depression, I've gotten to a place where I feel back to my normal self, and exercise is a big part of that. But I didn't just say, oh, I'm good now. I'm just going to...
I need to start exercising.
Right. I'm just going to, stop exercising, and I've gotten all the benefits and I'm good now. No, it's a preventative measure that you take, and you need to sustain that for the long run. Mm-hmm. And so there's been studies done that say exercise has even more benefits than medication.
Wow.
In terms of what it actually does to your brain. And so there's chemicals in your brain like serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine. These things all kind of regulate mood, energy, sleep, thinking clearly, and play. You may not even realize or understand they play a huge part in just your daily functioning.
Yeah. And
so exercise works to keep all these levels of chemicals up, and but exercise works to replenish and keep all these chemicals in balance. And so it's just critically important. Yeah.
So during our time in the second, and I think we're weaving in the second bout with the solutions to this. I think this is really good because you've used every one of these. And so maybe let's just kind of hit the pause button and say, what was it, about 9 months ago? When did the second kind of bout start to sneak up?
Yeah, so the second episode that I experienced with depression started in August of 2023.
Well, yeah, it was August 23. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So at that time, and we'll talk about this in a second, but at that time you did one of those things where we forced yourself to reach out, right? We sat together, we had coffee, we talked. You ended up saying, hey, let's go through Season Builder, and we use that as a platform, really as a platform to help you kind of lean into some of your pillars. Now, I'm thinking about it myself in real time, right? It wasn't anything new. It was just framework and friendship to actually help you start to implement or reapply, if you will, be more intentional in the season, some of your pillars. So one of the things during that process, we talked about moving your body, right? Working out, and you were working out. And you talked to me one day about the the idea of formulating a workout regimen. Maybe if you correct me with my terminology, but with a workout plan that really focused as much on your mental health as your physical health. Because I mean, so many people, are going to work out so they look like me. No, you don't. You know that's a joke. So you go work out so you look like that, so you don't look like me, right? So, but they think that it's such a physical thing, right? Because that's we kind of learned that. But I mean, one of the things that you just blew my mind one day and said, you know what? I'm gonna structure a workout plan that's as focused on my mental health as my physical. And then I picked myself up off the floor and I said, that is amazing. I've never heard of that before. So just talk to us about that. How do you do that? What an innovative, just groundbreaking idea about thinking about working out with a focus on mental health, not just physical.
I talked earlier about football is my why for working out. Then a year once I recovered from the first episode of depression, and about 6 months or so later, I actually discovered the sport powerlifting, and for a couple of years, that was really my motivation because you actually compete in that, and I was doing really heavy lifting and trying to get stronger, and so that was a physical goal I had. And then I started pursuing a pretty big designation for work, and so I started lacking in exercise again. I was putting a lot of time into that, and was not working out quite as often, and actually made the decision to not pursue powerlifting anymore, to really pursue more balance in life, which we can talk about later. That's been a huge thing. And so when I had this more recent episode of depression, going back to the pillars, I knew exercise is a critical part of helping me recover. At that time, though, I was thinking, like, what is my why now? Why am I working out? What's going to keep me motivated? And so most goals in terms of exercise and working out are physical, right? I want to lose weight. I want to get stronger. I want to look good, look better. A lot of people experience diseases like diabetes and cardiovascular disease, and so they want to improve those conditions. And so there's mostly physical goals when it comes to exercising. But for me, it was more about I want to be well physically, and I know without a doubt,
mentally. Right.
Yeah. Sorry, mentally. I would say mentally. I was harping on so much of the physical.
But no, you want to be.
I want to be well mentally.
Mentally, yes.
And so, understanding once before how exercise has helped me with my mental health, I knew that was my goal in working out. And so, one of the things I would encourage you to do, if you're going to if you're struggling mentally and you want to make exercise a part of your game plan, I think you need to pursue a trainer or a coach and have that accountability in place, or at least have a workout partner that you work out with. But a trainer or coach can help you really design a program or a plan that you follow. And so one of the big things for me, I had a powerlifting coach, and I still work with him just on my training now, but I don't have to think about that part of it. He has designed the plan, and it goes month to month, but I don't have to think about that part. So I went to Ryan and sat down with him. This was back in December when I knew I needed to recommit to this area of my life. And I said, hey, I shared what I was going through with him. I struggled with my mental health, and he had a lot of compassion for me as well, going back to being judged. And so he's like, yeah, I really want to help you in this area. And I told him that my goal is I want to be well mentally. I'm happy with where my body's at and strength and all that. But that's my number one goal for working out. And so he actually designed a plan with that being the goal. And I would also encourage you to, if mental health is the primary goal and being well mentally, but you need to have some physical goals to go along with that as well. And so I'm trying to get stronger. I'm trying to put on a little muscle. Those are some of the secondary physical goals that those need to be in there as well as secondary goals, but the primary goal being to improve my mental health and then now sustain that for the long term.
Yeah.
And so as you're designing a plan, I would encourage you to think about more intense physical exercise.
Okay.
And so if you really want true change, like radical change in your mental health and how you feel, and then sustainable change for the long term, you need to be thinking more intense physical exercise.
Okay.
And more, really minimum 3 days a week, but more like 4
Okay.
or 75 to 90 minutes a day.
Okay. Okay.
And so a lot of the exercises I focus on specifically are more high intensity style training.
Okay.
Think about things like box jumps,
Okay, good.
incline treadmill,
Okay.
yoke carries, sled pushes.
Okay. Okay.
And I do a lot of the main lifts, squat, different variations of that, bench press, deadlifting. But the pace of my workout is very fast. I mean, the rest breaks and rest periods are very minimal.
Okay.
And so I've had a lot of supersets in there. That was by design. That means you're doing 3 exercises at one time, basically. And so you're rolling through 3 at a time.
Okay.
And but a lot of the research I've read really says that some of the best exercise styles for improving your mental health are high intensity interval training. CrossFit's a great example of that. Weightlifting, number 2. And then running, long distance running. But I believe you need a couple long distance running with some type of weightlifting or things
weight training.
Yeah, weight training. Focus on your muscle development as well. And so that style of training, I think, is where you're going to see the best improvements in your mental health.